Now to Jadon Sancho's future, and Borussia Dortmund remain in talks with Manchester United over the loan signing. There is a broad agreement on the loan fee and how the salary will be apportioned. Contractual details are still to be finalised. Right, Kevin, how will this news go down with the Dortmund fans from the kind of Germany side of things?
I think a bit of cautious optimism. It's a strange situation for Dortmund at the moment because they're not playing well domestically. They've done really well in the Champions League, of course. They won their group. But domestically, it hasn't worked out for them. They're a long, long way off the title race. They're not even talking about being in the title race. They're actually talking about our goal is to qualify for next season's Champions League. And we're only in January. So it shows you how much they've struggled. I think there is a feeling that they need a good news story, and this would definitely be that. I think he is somebody that Dortmund fans were so thrilled by when he was there before. It'll be interesting to see who moves aside for him, and I think it'll take a while to build him back up to full fitness. And at the moment, there's been uncertainty among the fans about the coaching staff because Edin Terzic is the head coach. There's been a lot of speculation about his position. And what the club have done is moved in Nuri Sahin and Sven Bender, who are former players, really good former players, and they've joined the coaching staff. So that's had most of the media attention, apart from this Sancho story.
Well, how good was he in his last spell at Dortmund?
Sensational. I genuinely think he was not just the goals, not just the assists, not just how he would affect a game, but a joyful player. You know, the whole thing's supposed to be entertainment, right? And he was absolutely that. You know, he would have performances that he would just, you know, the fans would be thrilled, and he would play with that free spirit. Now, what he made it look easy, but what was around him was a good unit and good relationships with fullbacks and things like that. It was all about space and awareness of what was around him. He got to United, he didn't have any of that. And suddenly it was very, very difficult for him.
At Dortmund, you talked about the fullbacks and the space. At United, he was playing very different fullbacks. I think Luke Shaw's rebirth was all based on him being inverted and creating maybe less space for his wide man. And obviously, Aaron Wan-Bissaka's a great defensive right back, but going forward, he leaves a little bit to be desired. At Dortmund, Sancho was blessed to have Rafael Guerreiro on the left-hand side and Hakimi on the right-hand side, two of the best attacking fullbacks in the world. What kind of fullbacks will we be playing with when he goes back to Dortmund?
Yeah, it's a much more tricky situation now than it was then. As you say, he had that spell with Hakimi when he played on the right, and they were brilliant together. They got on really well off the pitch. You had Hakimi's pace, but Hakimi could also kind of underlap and make those runs, and it just created space for him. On the other side, Guerrero is such a smart player. He was never an out-and-out fullback, really, and he has played in midfield as well. So they had a great click as well. Now you've got a situation where at right back, they're really thin because of injuries. Mateo Moret has barely played for the past couple of years, really. Meunier's only just come back from injury. Rierson's out for a couple of months as well. And Marius Wolf is really limited going forward. On the left-hand side, they've almost got nobody. Bensebaini's away at AFCON. And, I mean, we're going to talk about Ian Maatsen, but they're desperate to bring somebody in. So you're kind of back to square one in that regard. So he's going to have to build those relationships pretty much from scratch.
Harry, how surprised are you that it hasn't worked out with Jadon Sancho at Manchester United?
It was a big surprise because, as you said, Kevin, there was so much excitement around his move. He was sensational at Dortmund, and he moved to Manchester United for a fee of £73 million, a 5-year contract. They really committed to his future. They thought that he was going to be a real star for them. And I remember when he joined, the quotes that came out of him were saying how he wants to be part of a team that will build so much success into the future, deliver the success that the fans deserved. And he wanted to be a key figure in all of that. And I think he had the ability, as he showed at Dortmund, to be able to do that. And then all of this is, you can't really anticipate that, can you? When something happens behind the scenes to this extent, not only was it behind the scenes, it got taken public. And when that happens, a breakdown in relationships is inevitable, and you can never prepare for that. You can never anticipate that because it's kind of so rare, isn't it? And it should never have, probably from your perspective, gone as far as it should have, where they want an apology. He's not willing to offer that. mainly, though, from a footballing perspective, just really disappointing because he does have so much potential. He is still only 23 years old. He has still got so much to give, and he wasn't able to achieve that with Manchester United. And for me, I don't think there's any real possibility, unless Ten Hag left and unless he wasn't manager anymore, that he will come back to Manchester United and be able to have a successful spell there, because that relationship breakdown has just gone so far. So definitely a huge surprise, definitely upsetting for Manchester United fans because there was so much anticipation about his arrival, but ultimately gone too far now, and this feels like a really, really smart move both for him and for Dortmund.
I wanted to just push the conversation on a little bit more, though, into the future, Kev, to see sort of in the summer, should this go in the right way for Jadon Sancho in terms of reigniting himself, finding himself, getting confident. What sort of valuation do you think could be put back onto Jadon Sancho, given in mind, you know, Dortmund with how they are financially, they got a lot of money for him in the first place. There is no obligation or option to buy it as it stands, just about getting him playing. What sort of fee do you think that he could attract?
It's really difficult because, you know, as much as somebody's prepared to pay, I know that that's a woolly answer, but effectively, if you just narrow it down to Dortmund, for example, OK, let's say he does really well. It's a big chunk of change for them, and they are generally pretty careful. And even, as you say, he's still a young player. So they might be tempted, but you're talking about a massive chunk of their summer budget. A lot of it would be dependent on whether they qualify for the Champions League.
They did it to us, Kev.
That's what they do.
They were posting up memes saying he's staying. Man United need to be firm.
They bring him in. They develop him. They sell him on. That's the business model.
But they could get him back for a very reasonable fee and then sell him on for a huge fee again, though. I mean, this could be if they can find that money. We know how good he can be.
I think there are hurdles. To leap over. I think as well, if you look at some of the wingers they've got, you've got Jamie Bino-Gittens, who they want to develop, who they gave a big, long contract to. So not necessarily they're going to be on the same side or blocking each other or whatever, but they've got to be very careful about him. Duranville is a guy they brought in, a young winger. He's barely played because of injury, but you wonder what they're thinking about him long term. It's possible that they could bring him in on a permanent basis. I just feel like financially, it's not necessarily a leap they would make. Now, if he does brilliantly and the fans are pushing for it, that may change things a little.
We've had this debate this morning, but Kevin, like, very quickly, can you ever see Sancho playing for Manchester United again?
I'd like to think so, but I wonder if too many bridges have been burned. And just quickly, Dortmund, you don't want to indulge a player too much, but I think Dortmund were a bit softer with him. Edin Terzic knew that he would turn up late to stuff sometimes, so he would detail a couple of staff members just to give him a nudge, just to make sure he was turning up when he was supposed to. And I know you don't want to, pamper players and indulge them too much, but I think he was a bit less hardline about it. And ultimately, got a really good reaction out of him and a really good tune out of him. So maybe somewhere between those two extremes is where you want to go.